All right, hour number 2 here on Outspoken. Appreciate all of you coming aboard here. And we're not going to do a little Major League Baseball, but I want to throw a curveball at my friend Bob Nightengale from USA Today. One of the preeminent men when it comes to covering this sport. Bob, do you think Chicago would ever see a moment where the Cubs would ever do what the Chicago Bears are potentially doing? Because you think all the things that are going on with the legacy of the Chicago Bears, and in sports today with stadiums being built, could you ever see a team like the Cubs, the Yankees, the Red Sox ever moving out of those respected areas and those respected stadiums that they play in?
Well, it's funny. I saw someone on Twitter the other day with the Cubs going so bad and say the Cubs should move to Hammond, Indiana, too. So, as you know, Dan, it's so different in the NFL than Major League Baseball, hockey, NBA. Baseball, you're talking about 81, home dates. In football, you're talking about, 9 home dates. I know people in Chicago, I got a lot of friends there that are upset. But when you think about it, I mean, the Patriots are, they're a good 45 minutes, hour away in Foxborough. The San Francisco 49ers, that's a good hour-long drive, to go to San Mateo. So it happens. I mean, it's just with football, they want, all the parking and everything else, restaurants, bars. I don't think it's that big a thing just because, like I said, it's only 9 games. It's not 81. So, the only team I can think of that's done that recently in baseball, and it's been gold mine, was Atlanta. They moved from downtown Atlanta to the suburbs in Cobb County, and that thing, you get the battery around it. That thing has been a gold mine for that franchise.
Bob, I never really thought about baseball, though, and the business of baseball. They don't, like, the Yankees moved into the parking lot next door, kind of the same thing like Atlanta did, right, too? I mean, they don't really like to move that far away. Now, I know Atlanta, like you just said, they moved to the suburbs, but the first stadium, then the second one went to the parking lot. Then they moved out to the suburbs a little bit, but that's not how baseball operates, is it? I mean, the Dodgers are not moving out of Chavez Ravine.
No, although they'd love to have, restaurants and bars. I still can't believe they haven't figured out something to do in the parking lot area. Obviously, with the Mets being where they are, in Queens, now Steve Cohen's building a $8 billion casino. That's a gold mine. Kansas City now, they're moving from, kind of the suburbs, a little bit out a ways from downtown KC. Now they're moving back into Kansas City for the first time since the 60s. So let's see what happens. But no, I think teams would prefer to have a downtown ballpark.
Let's go to some baseball news. Bob, who gets Skubal? Who gets him? Do you think it's going to be the Dodgers? Do you think they're the leading team to get him? And do you think the Dodgers are going to put him on the market before the trading deadline?
I think Tigers are going to have no choice. We'll see. And the American League is so bad, everybody's in it. So, if nothing changed in the next month, they got no choice. But I think they're going to take their time on it. And let's be honest, you need Skubal to pitch at least 3-4 times to show that he's healthy. So then when he is, you got to think the Dodgers, you got to think the Yankees. I would love to see a team like Milwaukee, just like with CC Sabathia, step up and do something bold. Not just to make the playoffs, which they should once again, but to get to the World Series. They haven't been in the World Series since they won it, back in 1982.
Aaron Judge, speaking of the Yankees here, he ends up getting that rib injury, Bob. How much of an impact do you think that's going to be for that team, and can they overcome it? I mean, Juan Soto leaves that Met lineup, and there was a complete Chernobyl implosion there. I mean, Aaron Judge, do you think the same thing in there, or do the Yankees have more guys in that lineup that can protect that lineup?
Yeah, the Yankees are much better than the Mets, so they have that depth to do it. And look, Atlanta, no one had more injuries than Atlanta this year. The Dodgers have had a ton of injuries. They were out without Mookie Betts for a while. Freddie Freeman was in and out. So, yeah, they have the depth. They're not going to be as good without him, for sure. But they're not going to just, implode. I think they still hang around and have a slightly better than 500 record. And hopefully he's back in August, then, good to go. And, this team's built for the World Series. You hate to see a superstar like Judge being out. I mean, not just for the Yankees, but all of baseball.
You said this a couple weeks ago. You said, hang in there, Ohtani's going to get back to being the batter Ohtani is. And we're starting to see that now. This guy's on a heater a little bit. That average is up near 300 again. I mean, he's throwing BBs off the mound. Bob, in your opinion, down the stretch for the Dodgers, is he going to be more important on the hill or at the dish for the Dodgers as they try to three-peat?
I think it'd be more important, at the plate. They've been more erratic offensively. They got the pitching depth. They don't need him to go, 7 innings or anything like that. Just go 5, 6 innings and be healthy, come playoff time. But no, I think offensively, they've been very streaky offensively. They need him to be more consistent at the plate. Then they're fine. And right now he's tearing it up just like the old days.
I had a conversation yesterday about Andrew Friedman. You and I have spoken about him. I think people are just under the notion, Bob, that it's all about just stroking checks for these big name guys. But Bob, is there a better minor league franchise and a better minor league organization right now than the Dodgers? I mean, they got a kid down there that's a pitcher that you could bring up right now that could start in numerous places all over Major League Baseball. I mean, Andrew Friedman took a little bit of what he did with the Rays, and he got that open checkbook to do whatever he feels like. And I mean, look, I go back to Theo Epstein, Dave Dombrowski, some of the great general managers we've seen over the last 20 years. But this guy's not just about the big checkbook, is he? He's truly a foundational builder for an organization.
Oh, absolutely. If there's a salary cap, I think you would show it. You look at that franchise, they got 12 homegrown guys on that 26-man roster. That's 12 guys. And so it's not like you're just buying talent everywhere. Hey, anybody could trade for Mookie Betts. Anybody could sign Freddie Freeman. Wasn't that outrageous? Now, was the Tucker contract outrageous? It was. Can they cover up mistakes like with the bullpen when Tanner Scott didn't work out with Edwin Diaz? Yeah, they can do that. But, they're smart. They do things better than everybody else. Their minor league system, produces players, particularly the pitchers. But they're absolutely loaded. That's why they can, they wanted to get Tarik Skubal without blinking because they have the prospects to do so.
Is there a rumor out there, too, Aroldis Chapman could also be a Dodger? I mean, Bob, this is getting obnoxious now. I mean, this is like your fantasy baseball team that you're picking. If these guys end up getting Chapman to close the door at the back end, is that a true rumor too?
Well, yeah, I haven't heard it with the Dodgers. He's certainly going to be available. I mean, it's still going to have Diaz back in August. You got Tanner Scott. But yeah, if they got him, I mean, wouldn't it be outrageous in the sense where, San Diego Padres have done that with that bullpen? It would be an unbelievable get if they got him. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be a guy everybody wants. I mean, a team like Milwaukee could use him a lot more than the Dodgers.
Absolutely. There are more with Bob Nightengale. We're going to talk some more Major League Baseball with our friend from USA Today. But don't forget our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number one injury law firm in all of America for a reason. And that is because they win. Over 25 years of great service to you and your family, folks. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania. Initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that got nearly $350K. They end up getting nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Big Sills sent you. Should be absolutely awesome stuff going on in Major League Baseball with the trading deadline coming up here. And there's some teams that have been some great surprises, like the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays, again, have wobbled a little bit this past week. They end up getting swept by those Tigers. Rough weekend so far. Can they hold off the Yankees? What will the Mets do? What are they going to do when it comes to the offseason here? Is that going to really be a place that Alex Cora is going to go to? Is that something that maybe even that Don Mattingly is starting to manage himself into getting that job? We will talk more about that. We'll do that next with our friend Bob Nightengale. Keep it right here on Sports Grid. More with our friend Bob Nightengale from USA Today, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame voter. We're here with him. And Bob, 50 games plus. ABS working for you, right? It's become something that I think a lot of people are really enjoying. I know I'm enjoying it. I didn't know how I was going to look at it at the beginning, but for you, are you enjoying it? And do you think it's been really helpful to the game?
Yeah, I think it's been fine. I think the novelty has worn out some. I don't see people going nuts at ballparks like they used to. It's intriguing. They get that thing up fast. The only thing that drives me crazy is like when calls are overturned, you're missing a pitch by, like 1/100th of an inch. And, people are yelling and stuff. It's like, I think what this is showing how good the umpires already were. Yeah, at least you can repair some or fix some egregious calls that, umpires can miss. But, mostly it's like, these pitches are so close. It tells you these umpires have been doing a lot better job than people have ever thought.
You said it a couple weeks ago on the Mets. This could be one of the worst Met teams in the history of that franchise. I mean, I'm not going to go all the way back to the expansion year back in the day, but I mean, Bob, where do you go if you're the Mets? Where do you go if you're Steve Cohen? Where do you go if you're Stearns with this baseball team? I mean, is there going to be a complete overhaul of that roster, you think, this coming offseason? I don't know if you can really move off of some of these guys. And what type of manager do they need to go in there if they're going to try to really turn this thing around?
Yeah, they went out and, let Pete Alonso go as a first baseman, brought in Jorge Polanco. And, Polanco's already missed about twice as many games as Alonso did his entire tenure with the Mets. He had another setback. So, it's almost like you're in a chemistry lab, threw a bunch of stuff together, and it hasn't worked. It's, blown up in their face, really. And we'll see what they do in the off season. Not like there's a big free agent market to go get them. I think it's going to take some time. And, I think they know it's not Mendoza's fault. They're not turning around and giving a contract extension either. So, they could shake that up. I don't think it'll be Alex Cora, though. I really don't. I think if Cora goes anywhere, it's back in Philadelphia, not back in Philadelphia, but back with Dave Dombrowski, who loves Cora. So, yeah, the Mets are a mess, and it's going to take some time.
I got to ask you about Artie Moreno. Are we at that time right now? Would the Angels consider sending Mike Trout somewhere, or has that ship sailed, Bob? I mean, the guy's really never been in the postseason. He's never had a shot at putting his name up. And I know, listen, he's long in the tooth now. He's not the same Mike Trout of, say, 5 years ago. But could you see him, Artie Moreno, the owner of the Los Angeles Angels, could you see them getting rid of him and moving him somewhere just to give him a shot to see what he could do and maybe get himself a World Series ring?
No, I think what people forget is Mike Trout has a complete no-trade clause. Mike Trout doesn't want to go anywhere. He's very happy in Anaheim. Yeah, he wishes they won more. Just like Ohtani. If the Angels had matched that contract, he was going back to Anaheim. So, they couldn't trade him. Just there's so little trade value. Remember, he's got $140 million coming. They would have to eat at least half of that contract. You'd just been hurt too much. He's healthy right now, but how long is it going to last? So, no, I think Trout stays with the Angels his entire career. It's too bad with all the injuries and everything else. But I know there has, the last couple of years, there has not been a single team, reach out and ask about Mike Trout.
Mike Trout, where do you put him in baseball's legacy? Where do you think he fits? Because, there were conversations before, Bob, that you were comparing him, not you, but folks were comparing him to Mantle, and that he was a modern-day Mantle, center field guy, all the gold gloves, the home runs and all, 3-time American League MVP. Where do you put him as one of the best outfielders of all time?
It drops down just because of all the injuries. He started that way. You compare his first 10 years to, say, Albert Pujols. It pales in comparison. Pujols' first 10 years were unbelievable. No, he's not an outfielder. But, yeah, he was on that. Mike was definitely on that track, but just the injuries derailed him. So I don't think you'll go and say he's one of the top 10 outfielders of all time or top 20, top 50, that sort of thing. But just because the injuries, you got to play. That's why, what Matt Olson's doing, approaching about 850 straight games now without taking a day off. That's pretty special. But you got to play to be one of those guys that are considered one of the greatest. It's just too bad with the injuries. It's almost like Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom could have been one of the best, pitchers of all time. But, injuries wiped him out too.
Do you think Mike Trout had a better career than Andrew Jones?
Ooh. Close. I mean, I think people will say just because more recent bias, hey, Mike Trout, but I think it's close. I mean, obviously, Andrew is playing a lot of great Atlanta Braves teams there, and he was a much, much better outfielder than Mike Trout, much better, and 10-time Gold Glove winner. I'm not sure what was Trout, maybe one Gold Glove at maximum.
Yeah.
No, I'd probably put Jones ahead of Mike Trout. Same thing. He didn't have the injuries, but he just fell off a cliff when he left Atlanta.
I never thought that conversation would ever be that close. Like you said, in the first 10 minutes here, or 10 years of his career, I never thought that. Real quick here, Seattle finding their mojo again. You're starting to see it, and it's starting to pick up a little bit for them, the Mariners?
Absolutely. And they got the most talent in that division. I thought going into the season, it's going to be between Seattle and Detroit to get to the World Series. Now I think it's between the Yankees and Seattle. Seattle is good. They do have offensive weapons, great pitching staff. Nobody wants to see that pitching staff in the postseason, but there's no reason why they shouldn't run away and hide in the AL West, get a first-round bye, and make that World Series run.
How about this, 30 seconds here. If you had to pick a Chicago team right now, Sox or the Cubs, who are you buying?
I still buy the Cubs. I mean, Sox are a great story, but they're rebuilding, and they're not going to trade away a bunch of prospects and go for it. That's what they've been working so hard to get. So they're not going to be active at the trade deadline, where the Cubs have got to do something. They don't make the playoffs. It's an utter disaster.
Man, Bob, could you ever imagine the Chicago Cubs moving to Hammond, Indiana? I could never. Bob Nightengale, where are you? Well, I'm in Hammond, Indiana, covering the Cubs because they moved Wrigley to Hammond, Indiana. Bob, it's only 17 miles. Everyone thinks it's like 17 million miles, like it's from Mars to the moon. And it's 17 miles, and everyone's blowing a gasket. And now they're coming up with a new item called Chicagoland. So I'm like, all right here. Bob, I appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much, my friend.
A pleasure. Take care, Danny.
You got it. That is Bob Nightengale, USA Today. There was a trade that was a gargantuan one this past week. Myles Garrett to the Rams. We'll hit on that next here on Sports Grid. I'm going to tell you who the best owner is in all of professional sports, and I mean in the world. And we saw a gigantic trade go down this past week. Myles Garrett goes to the Los Angeles Rams, and they end up sending back Jared Verse to the Cleveland Browns, a 2000 second-round pick in 2027, and in 2028, a third-round pick. And Myles Garrett gets an opportunity to go to Los Angeles and potentially win himself a Super Bowl. The greatest owner in all the world is Stan Kroenke. There's no better owner in sports in the world. In the last 5 years, Stan Kroenke has won a Super Bowl with the Rams. He's won a Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. He has won a championship with Arsenal. He has won again with the Denver Nuggets. Every single franchise that guy has owned, he has won with. And why is that? Stan Kroenke, the owner of the Rams, believes in the now. They're not looking to sit around and hold draft picks. In the last 11 years, the Los Angeles Rams have used 3 first-rounders. 3 first-rounders in the last 11 years. Think about that. They don't care about draft picks. They care about winning today. You know that stadium, SoFi, that was built and all the issues that you got going on in Chicago? You know what you have in Los Angeles? Stan Kroenke opened up his Walmart wallet, stroked a check for that SoFi stadium, and bought that thing out of his back pocket. And you know what he did? He ended up sending Inglewood a $440 million bill because of all the things that came with it and that was promised and have not been delivered by the city of Inglewood. He wasn't going to sit around and wait like the McCaskey family is, jockeying back and forth between the sewer and Hammond, Indiana, and Chicago. He went out there and stroked a check to get that stadium done in Los Angeles because he knew all the folks in California were not going to give him a stadium. They were not going to use taxpayer money. Kroenke went out and did it himself. That's called ownership and leadership. They want to win a championship. What do? They go get the best player on the planet in Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, you've got the reigning defensive player of the year, and you've got the reigning most valuable player in the NFL on the same team. I can't remember the last time that happened. Stan Kroenke wants to win today. Stan Kroenke's not going to have politicians tell him, hey, what we're going to do. Hey, let's sit around and jockey back and forth when it comes to stadiums. Let's wait and see what, local politicians have to think. If you put your trust in local politicians, you'll look like exactly what Chicago's looking like right now. You got a mayor in that city right now that is doing this. Hey, guess what? You can have the Bears heritage and you can have the Bears history. Oh, yeah, take it across the border. It is one of the most embarrassing things that is going on right now in sports. It's not so much the fact that it's 17 miles. The fact is, it could be 17 billion miles when you're talking about a city like Chicago. Stan Kroenke has none of that. Stan Kroenke wants to win today. Stan Kroenke sits down and says, what do we have to do to get our teams in a position to be a championship team? This dude won an NBA title with the Nuggets a couple years ago, as I said. Avalanche, he wins the Stanley Cup. He wins a Super Bowl with his Rams. Oh, and by the way, he's also the same guy when he bought the team from Georgie Fournier. When it was in St. Louis, what did he do? We're not living here in St. Louis. We're going to double the franchise's fees and rights and net wealth by moving the thing back to where it belonged. That's in Los Angeles. The LA Rams belong in LA. Kroenke knows that. That's like telling me the Chicago Bears belong in Hammond, Indiana. Hammond, Indiana? Barges don't even go through there any longer. Let's just put that out there. I mean, like I said, the Edmonds Fitzgerald sunk would not go through Hammond, Indiana. Are you kidding me, man? So, kudos to Stan Kroenke and the Rams management. You got the best owner in American sports. You got the best owner in all of sports because that guy's going to do whatever it takes for his fan base, and that guy's going to do whatever it takes to win. He wins at every single level in every team that he owns. He just won a championship with Arsenal. Guy's a phenomenal owner, and I think Myles Garrett is going to be an amazing impact on that team this year, and I got the Rams winning the Super Bowl. One of the greatest sports talk hosts in the history of Chicago. He is the voice of Chicago. He's been covering the team for decades. The creator of sports talk broadcasting in Chicago, my friend, Hall of Famer Mike Trout, next here on Sports Grid. When you talk the voices of sports talk radio, there's very few people that you could put on a Mount Rushmore. And this guy here belongs on the Mount Rushmore when you're talking sports and you're clearly talking about Chicago landscape and Chicago sports. He is the founder, really, of sports talk radio in Chicago. He is my friend, Hall of Famer Mike Trout. He joins us now. And, Mike, I got to tell you, this story with the Chicago Bears, you and I have been going back and forth with this thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Are they really moving out of Chicago?
They don't have a site. They have where they'd like to put it, but they don't even have a site yet. This is a long process to go, Dan. I think that what's funny about this is it's become a political football because they're blaming Governor Pritzker and they're blaming Brandon Johnson, talking about Bear fans. It's the same Bear fans who have crucified the McCaskies for 40 years all of a sudden seem to think that the McCaskies, who are inherited an $8 billion team, don't have to pay property tax. And there's been a lot of stuff that's been uncovered. For instance, the Chicago Bears have a guy named Patrick Ryan, who's worth $11 billion and owns the Ryan Sports Group. And he's a minority owner of 20%. His partner, Andrew McKenna, owned 2 of the 20% and died. Okay. And that 20% saved the Bears from being in debt in 1990. Do you know the Bears fought him for 1% of the 2 instead of just giving him the 2%? This is what we're dealing with in this town. The Chicago Bears right now are getting the worst PR they could have after a beautiful season. They are absolutely, look, Pritzker was 6 years old when I was first promised the stadium, the governor. and Brandon Johnson wasn't alive. And the McCaskey family, Virginia, okay, they weren't supposed to own the team at that time, and they never were in the plans. So you got a group of people that were never going to be included in any plans to move the team. I already got a name for them. They're the Hammond 219ers, as far as I'm concerned. Because, people are trying to say, oh, they got to go where it's better for them. You just explained Stan Kroenke. If you don't have liquid cash, you shouldn't own an NFL team. If you're the only team that doesn't own a stadium by now, you are incompetent and shouldn't own an NFL team. And if you think moving, I can't wait if they do move. Here's what nobody's looking for. 2031, let's say. Opening day. Welcome everybody to Hammond, Indiana. The whole town will sink, even the people that supported it. They'll finally realize there's no more trekking to Wrigley, no more trekking to Soldier, which they'd gladly do than have it in Hammond.
Tell me something, Mike. Who do you look at with responsibility? Do you look at it more at the McCaskies? Do you look at city officials? Do you look at the governor here on where we are right now? That this is even a conversation, Mike. I mean, who's really the person that is really pushing them out the door?
There are two people to blame here. Pritzker will get the blame. Brandon Johnson is just a goof. He doesn't have an idea. Okay. I don't know if he could get a job collecting shopping carts at the local shopping center parking lot. And Kevin Warren has not been mentioned in this discussion, who was hired to bring a stadium, bought Arlington Heights. They knocked down a world-class international race course, 360 acres, bigger than SoFi. Perfect. A train, which it was a racetrack, and in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, 60s, people took the train to Arlington, got off, walked 5 feet, you're in the door. The train station in Hammond is 5 miles away. Infrastructure is going to be paid by the blue state part of Indiana, while the Republican governor will get the credit. But people keep bringing up to me New York and how it worked in New Jersey. It didn't work. They were forced to do it. And of course, people went because it's not that far. But nobody ever brings up Pontiac. Nobody ever brings up Landover. And this is the situation. Bear fans, 50% of them, I guarantee you. And the season ticket holders that they're taking advantage of, I can't wait till the cancellation of skyboxes. I can't wait. Because Hammond, if you think that every major corporation, they're moving out of Chicago as it is. Now they're going to want businesses to travel to Hammond and buy skyboxes. They'll do it for a couple of years. But let me just say this. The Bears are off a winning season. If they have a losing season, I've been there. Soldier Field is half full. What do you think Hammond's going to be if the Chicago Bears go 6-11 in a season? They'll have empty seats galore. It will be half filled like they've been half filled in Chicago. The only time they were never half filled was when they were at Wrigley Field. Those were loyal blue-collar fans, and they've been messaged out.
Mike, can you do one more segment with us here? Do you got time to do one more segment?
10. Everybody, they got me like I'm taking off with the NASA thing. I'll stay all day. You got 10 minutes, and then if you don't have the answers, we're going to kill you. I'm right here for you.
Mike, tell me this here. So
yes,
how are the Bear fans taking this?
We're pissed. Most people are pissed, but the people that hate the people that have hated ownership. The funny part is the media will not condemn them, okay, because half of them are dependent on the Bears. They have no guts. They got to remember what they lied about when they go to bed, okay? Bear fans, the media doesn't speak for Bear fans, and Bear fans are pissed. This is an embarrassment to the city of Chicago and to a guy who used to go to Vegas and say, where you from? And the guy said to me once, where you from? I go, Chicago. Where you from? Me too. I go, where? He goes, Peoria. I go, that's 3 hours away. Now I go, where you from? They go, where you from? I'm almost ready to say Peoria after the nonsense I've seen the past 4 or 5 years.
Mike, what's Chicagoland?
To me, it's a amusement park. Anybody that thinks that nobody lives in New York land, Nobody lives in Boston land. You've said this. You never heard it. I grew up in Chicago. You know who lives in Chicagoland? People that wish they had the money to live in Illinois, apparently. Because why would you want to be attached to Chicagoland? Because Robert R. McCormick of the Chicago Tribune, okay, in 1926, said, you know what? People are just stupid enough for me to say to 5 states, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio, that you're part of Chicagoland. And the only people still stupid enough to believe it are in Indiana. When you're over the border, and this is what pisses people off, when you go, you don't pay taxes in Chicagoland for both. When you're in Indiana, you're paying Indiana taxes. When you're in Chicago, you're paying Chicago taxes. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be lawsuits up the rear end because people are going to fight that there should be an AFC team in town or another team in town because that 75 rule is bogus. Ask the Baltimore Ravens. They moved 38 miles from Washington, from the Washington Redskins Commanders back in the day when they were told in Landover, Maryland, another failure, nobody's going to bother you. Nobody's going to bother you. So it's all BS. If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, who were kicked out of Chicago by Papa Hallis and the owners in 1960 because they were both in debt and Hallis knew he had to get rid of them. If I'm the Bidwells, I get my revenge. Pat Ryan, the 20% owner, should sell his stock to the Bears, build a brand new dome stadium, but already put in the entertainment complex and just have it waiting for the next greedy NFL team that wants to come in because there's 26 miles of desert.
Bring the
Pretty damn good, isn't it? I came with my A game.
Bring the Cardinals back to Chicago. We're going to do another segment with our friend Mike North, and I'm going to be asking him this, the effect this year on the fan base, what it'll be at the ticket gate. We'll do that next, right here on Sports Pick.
I know you did it. Talk.
I'm innocent. Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time. Yeah.
Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
talking to one of the greatest sports talk guys of all time. He is Mr. Chicago, a legend in Chicago. Really started sports broadcasting when it came to sports talk radio, in Chicago. He is my friend Mike North. Mike, before we continue more of this conversation with the Bears here, we got some troubling news just a couple minutes ago about Stacey King passing away, member of those great Bulls teams. Just some of your thoughts again here on Stacey passing away.
Well, I covered him as a player. And me and Dan Jiggets were partnered at WSCR back in the day, 1180, when we started the station. And the Bulls teams, the Bears were great to us, and we had guys like Dick and Buddy Ryan that were contributors. We had an owner that wasn't afraid to spend. That's why he sold the station, 2 stations, for $75 million 4 years later, because he built it up. And we knew we got the top players back then. We had Jordan on. We had them all. The Bulls were as important to my station than anybody else, because they won every year from the time we started, 92 on. And Stacey King was one of the contributors on that team. We had him on, him and Scott Williams, some of the bench players, Ron Harper, who was a starter, but, not the most important guy, even though he was great. And these guys were tremendous. And Dan Jiggets and I used to say, boy, this guy's going to be in broadcasting someday. I never thought he'd take over for Johnny Kerr and become the announcer he was. It's a loss for Chicago. He loved Chicago. He was a former head coach in the CBA, and Jerry Reinsdorf brought him in. And I know that Adam Amin and everybody in Chicago's sick. I think we can all agree. He's one of the first championship Bulls, first 3 to go, and it's pretty tough.
Let's throw this in there then to this. When you're talking about civic pride in Chicago, Cubs, Bulls, Hawks, or Bears, maybe that's why this story with the Bears moving, it's so hard, because I think the Bears are your civic pride team. Like, say in Philadelphia, you have like the Eagles there, not the Phillies. I'm not saying the Phillies aren't a staple there, but in Chicago, Mike, what's the centerpiece team that people galvanize themselves around?
Right now, it's the Bears, because they're the only team. You remember, you got a pretty good team in Chicago White Sox right now that's causing some noise. The Cubs have been slumping a little bit, but it's always been a split baseball town. That's why I want to bring another team to Chicago if they move. If the Bears move, the Cubs will be the dominant team in town, and the Bears will be an afterthought. I'm telling you now. I've seen it happen to Detroit Lions, the St. Louis Rams, as we spoke about, Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders don't have the same aura that they in Vegas. Mike Greenberg said, you can say whatever you want. Mike's a good friend of mine, worked with them in the 90s. You can say whatever you want. When the Jets moved out of Shea, a big part of them moved too. He goes, it's never going to be the same. And like I said, I can't, if it actually happens, I can't believe George McCaskey's going to walk around Soldier Field for the next 3-4 years if they do cut this deal and say, how you doing, everybody?
Well, Mike, let me get, I want to go there with that then. How is this going to affect this next couple of years here? I mean,
no,
look, I agree. I agree with you 100%. That'd be like moving the Bills out of Buffalo and moving them to Albany. And
they were going to move. They were talking about moving them. Well,
they were talking about moving them to Canada. They were talking about how is that going to affect the fan base this year and the respect for the McCaskey family, or not their respect of the McCaskey family.
Well, what's funny is if people are honest, neither side is respected. Neither side. And I heard a very good friend of mine and a good friend of yours, Philly Godfather, yesterday tweeted out that, it's a shame about the Bears, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't understand. Philly's next. He don't get it. Camden is waiting across the river with lower prices. And if people think Jeffrey Lurie wouldn't move that Philadelphia team in that Democratic town, and then somebody said to me, this is great, they'll never move. If the Bears move, it makes it easier for everybody else. The Philadelphia Eagles moving is nothing, I'm telling you, to the number 2 or 3 market team moving to Indiana. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Some guy goes, they'll move to North Philly. I don't know the area all that well. There's abandoned malls and everything. I go, Why are they abandoned? Because of the taxes, because of the economy. So I fully expect if the Bears move, within 5 years, Jeffrey Lurie's going to see everybody not getting taxed like he's taxed in Philadelphia, and they're going to move. I promise you, because the NFL's in the stadium building business now. It's not about the cities anymore. They know the cities are run like shitholes. They know it. So they want to get you out. They want to have their cake and eat it too. That's what the Bears want. They're going to get the overflow because there's no hotels in Hammond. There's not going to be an entertainment center there now. I can't believe they built that. There's no restaurants so the hotels will be occupied by people going to the game in Hammond. Okay, you land in O'Hare, you're 47 miles away from Hammond. You land at O'Hare, you're 5 miles away from Arlington Heights. In an area that was built for sports because it was a racetrack and is huge. And I can't imagine another football team not being there down the line because that's going to happen.
Let me ask you about your mayor coming out and saying this.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the name, you can have the colors, you can have the C, and we've been promised that if they move, they're going to keep the C in the name.
Yeah.
Why in God's name would you do it? Why would you do that if you're the mayor?
Because he wants them out. Because he doesn't want them going to Arlington. Arlington is in the suburbs, far away, okay? Far away from the downtown action in Chicago. Now, there's 1 million restaurants in the 10 connecting suburbs all over the place, okay? He wants them to go to Hammond. He showed his hand, but lawsuits will come. Lawsuits will come because the 75-mile rule doesn't come into effect because the Ravens are 38 miles from Washington, and there will be lawsuits taking the Chicago name. Believe me when I tell you this, some irate Bear fan and the season ticket holders, I'm waiting for a class action suit. They had no say in this, period.
Man,
you want me to stay some more? You want me to stay some more?
Listen, Mike, I got to tell you, this is just an absolute nightmare that's going on right now in Chicago. My friend, we will talk more. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this, man. Thank you, brother, so much, man. That is Mike North, the legendary man himself. I'm going to give you my takeaway next. We'll do that in final thoughts. Keep it right here on Sports Grid. The story that is clearly dominating the sports scene right now is the Chicago story with the Bears moving potentially to Hammond, Indiana. And who's the quiet mouse in the room? The commissioner of the National Football League. The professional liar himself, Roger Goodell. This guy's paid to lie. You know how he tells you that, hey, we're all here for the fans and how much he loves the fans and how much the NFL loves its fan base? You're trying to tell me, in the best interest of the Shield, is moving the Chicago Bears from the city of Chicago to that crap hole in Indiana, Hammond, Indiana. That's in the best interest? Or is it in the best interest of wealth for the National Football League? Stop with these lies. The NFL tries telling its fans that, hey, we love you guys so much. And then when you take a look at your cable bill every month and you're signing up for like Prime Video, Amazon, you got to get Peacock. You've got to have another one so that you can get the premium games as we get closer to the holidays. The NFL commissioner will tell you how much he loves you, and yet he turns around and he double dips you when it comes to your cable bill, let alone the fact that every time he stands in front of the microphone, he is paid $60 million a year to fall on a sword for those 32 Sharks. He is the biggest liar in sports, Roger Goodell, and he don't care. Folks, it's not the point that it's only 17, 18 miles from where the Bears are there right off of Lakeshore to go to Hammond. It's the fact that they think you're stupid. They think you're dumb. They treat you like wrestling fans. Hell, even wrestling fans know it's a gimmick. NFL fans, the owners, want you to think it's not a gimmick, and it is a gimmick. I said it to Mike before, Mike North, who we just had on. The NFL's in the stadium business now, friends. You get 10 home games, 2 preseason and 8 home games during the regular season. What do you think these stadiums are being made for? Republican and Democratic national conventions, WWE events. You're going to get concerts. They are in the entertainment business. They are in the business of creating generational wealth for the owners. Listen, when you build one of these stadiums, your automatic wealth for you goes up double when you get one of these stadiums built. And you know how they do it? At the back of the taxpayers. Let me charge you PSLs. Let me make sure we stand in line for $15,000 for PSLs. Let me charge you out the wazoo when it comes to tickets. Then your cable bill on top of that. And you know what? The fans take it because it's NFL football. Have you ever seen a league in your life take advantage more of their fans than the National Football League? And you know what? We're all like sheep. We take it. And the commissioner's right there hugging the players on draft day and telling the fans how much they love it. The Bears Board of Directors voted Thursday to advance the stadium development in Hammond, Indiana. And guess what? The commissioner of the National Football League thinks that's good? Where are you, Roger? Player gets in trouble. There you are. You got these greedy-ass owners looking to put this on the taxpayers' backs. And where are you? Don't ever tell me that the commissioner of the National Football League cares about the players or cares about the fans. And by the way, I'm not naive to think they ever did. Fans are the ones that are naive to think that the commissioner of the league does. He makes $60 million a year for a reason. He gets total health care for the rest of his life for him and his family. National Football League player, you got to play 4 years before you get a pension. And you don't get lifetime benefits when it comes to your health. But good old Roger, who never takes a hit, he ends up getting full benefits and $60 million large every year to fall on the sword and lie to people. It's truly amazing that when stories like this pop up, when you rip a fan base apart in Oakland, or you rip a fan base apart in San Diego, or you're the potential ripping of a fan base in Chicago apart, you got to love the commissioner in the league. They fall on deaf ears. because that's what the NFL is. It is all about making money. Don't ever kid yourself, friends. It's got nothing about equality. It's got nothing about doing the right thing. It's about ching-ching. You bet the NFL's prejudiced. You know what it's prejudiced towards? Green. Nothing else. Nothing more. That's how they make their money, off of you. Remember that. The biggest liar in professional sports is the commissioner of the National Football League. And he'll continue to lie to you every time he gets in front of a microphone. That's why the Bears are moving to Hammond. Friends, we appreciate you very much coming aboard. Thank you again. We will see you next week. And we'll catch you on the flip side.